You're listening to She the People, where we met in the Peace Corps, traveled a lot, kept asking bigger questions. This show's about curiosity over certainty, evidence over lies and misinformation, and building a world that actually works for all of us.
I think that's a really important thing that we'll talk about a lot is just being curious.
Curiosity is very important for critical thinking and life experience.
I think it's a good way to move through the world to be naturally curious and ask a lot of questions and not pretend that just because you read something on the internet, you're all of a sudden an expert on things. Because I think a lot of people do that. We have a lot of information out there, and people can feel like they have read about a topic without really understanding where the source of that information came from. And so, something that I'd like to practice on this podcast, since I have a research background, is when people say, I researched this, I'd like to know more about how to consider research.
And when people are like, yeah, I researched, what kind of study was it? Was it a meta-analysis? And then they're like, what? That's part of the problem. Our backgrounds, which we're going to talk about, are based in science and like gives us the ability to critically think. Everything we've done has been building on how to critically think, how to discern fact from fiction. I think a lot of people are lacking those critical thinking skills. They're lacking the ability to discern what is fact from fiction. We have a lot of lying and misinformation and propaganda going on right now. And people are lacking the skill to discern what is real and what is not.
There's a lot of information out there, and it's hard to wade through all of that inundation of information if you don't have some of those foundational skills in questioning whatever they're purporting or discussing or telling you to do. It is really hard. If you haven't practiced it, you're just going to take it as fact because you trust this person or this source, this website or this radio show. And that is something we call confirmation bias. You're just going to see and read sources that agree with your opinion without seeking the alternative opinion.
I think people are taking opinion as fact. Fox News is like 99% opinion and 1% fact. And if even that. And so all it is them spouting their opinions off when people are actually taking that as real information. Every time I read a story, I'm like, is this real? I look at the top to see if it says opinion. And if that's what it is, then I'm really not that interested in it unless it's on some sort of non-important thing, like my trip around the world or something that I'm not going to read an opinion piece on what I should eat to cure athlete's foot or something.
Well, you come across this quite a bit because you work in healthcare. And I think people love to look up stuff that is medical and presume that what they've read is true. Or, maybe they are on a credible site. Was WebMD a credible site, Mindy?
Yeah, like Mayo Clinic, Johns
Yeah, sure.
Hopkins.
Mayo Clinic, the CDC. Talk to your doctor or talk to your healthcare provider and confirm, like, oh, I read this on the internet. You could say, I researched this, but really, you read it on the internet. And I think there needs to be language around that. And we need to normalize, like, oh, instead of saying, I researched this topic, can we just say what you actually did? Like, I asked so and so, and this is the information that I got. Or I read this on the internet, and this is the site that I looked at. Let's take that word research out of our vocabulary if it's not actually research in the way that most people understand research.
That's part of the problem. We don't have a lot of these foundational skills anymore that people are lacking. I think we're seeing what happens when any kid can get any kind of education in any state and not go to public school. I think we're seeing what happens when people are allowed to teach their kids at home, and some of these things are not actually beneficial to learning. Not to say
Well,
that
focusing on
at-home
variety
education
and
isn't
no,
bad. Too much variety. No,
I
we
agree. I
both
think
went to
people
public.
say I love my public school education. This is maybe a topic that I don't know a lot about, and I'm curious about
Totally.
it. The public education system and what's happening in it.
When I went to elementary school, it was wonderful. We went on trips. I learned so much. It was in a suburb of Sacramento, predominantly white, I'm going to say, but it wasn't like a wealthy area. It was a middle class suburb of America.
And I think that might make all the difference too. I had a wonderful public school education. We were in central Pennsylvania. I wouldn't say that it was hoity-toity, well-to-do place, but we had a major public university in our town that paid a lot of taxes to the area, which included the public school system. We had great music classes and awesome sport offered. I think there is a distinction to be drawn based on
Art.
There was art. I mean, we had a great public school, and I think it had a lot to do with the large public university in my hometown that brought concerts, shows, and a lot of culture, that came. I don't think every school has that. Knowing that there's not this level playing field for students and kids growing up in the public school system, I'd like that to be addressed. I'd like those kids to be supported. And what I don't want to see is a dismantling
Right.
Department of Education. Like, I think that's going in the wrong
Right.
direction. If that's something that you value, which we do, it's really hard to stomach seeing what's happening to our public systems.
We're both people that have had different experiences to see the disparities in this country. People don't understand that. Everybody has equal opportunity. They do not. There are a lot of disparities. And just what we're talking about of like just education, just elementary school education, like that someone gets all this great education because somebody is investing in that school, and then this person doesn't because it's a poor neighborhood and there's nothing there.
Right? And so you've got these schools where nobody's investing, they get the leftovers, maybe one amazing teacher who really cares, and that's it. And a lot of the times, those schools are in neighborhoods full of immigrants or first gen families who are just trying to make it. And that's the thing, we forget that unless you're indigenous, you or your family came from somewhere else. We're all immigrants in some way. And instead of treating that as a weakness, it's actually part of what gives this country richness and language, food, values, ideas. But when schools are neglected and entire communities are treated as disposable, it's like saying those stories don't matter, that diversity doesn't matter. And if you're only living in your own bubble, never questioning whiteness or privilege, you're missing the entire point, not just of education, but of being in a shared society.
You're an immigrant. Unless you can verify that you are Native American, then you are definitely an immigrant.
So it's not a unique experience. We're all immigrants. We've all
Some of
brought
us-
culture and language and different ideas from other places.
That's why we have such great food from all over. If you're only going to live in your bubble, you're not experiencing anything at all. If you think you're better than someone else because you're white, that's a real core issue you should look into.
There was a comedian talking about white supremacists, and he was very confused about it because he's like, have they had tacos? Have they never had different cuisine than casseroles? I don't know what white supremacists eat, but it's a really interesting question. There's so much good food from Malaysia alone. So much good food. If you can have all the other types of food from around the world at your fingertips,
Why wouldn't you?
I think you're not living a full life if you're not tasting these flavors.
That's why you shouldn't be a racist.
Because you're missing out on some really good food.
You're really missing out on all these different types of cuisine. Not that your core value system is wrong. But what about food?
It just begs the question, like, have you looked out the window? Secrets out, man.
We're not all white and like want to be. I don't want to be all white. It's so boring. They must be so unhappy in themselves and need people to blame for their unhappiness. On that note of not talking about what we were going to talk about, which is the world that we want and how do we get there? One of the things that I just want to point out too is that we are called She the People, and it is because this is a perspective of two women that have really lived not only in this country, but gone outside of our country and really tried to understand other cultures, other people's backgrounds, even the environment. Love it. So that's really what kind of world we envision. And I think that being women, to not be in a box that we've been put in our whole lives, part of the problem to me, because men run the world, we often think within their constructed box. What does our world and our country look like when we look outside of that box, like where there's anything possible?
We've lived and worked in lots of systems. And as women, we weren't creating these systems. Going back to being an immigrant and being a racial minority, being a religious minority in this country, I'm seeing things from a perspective of, oh, this isn't my default environment. I'm always having to work within a Christian context for daily life. For example, the holidays like Christmas. It's Christmas time. The decorations go up, and this is what people do: the tree, the gift giving, and there's Jesus in there too. It's not Jesus. It's not just gifts and trees, sparkly lights. I've had to understand that and partake in it. I had a lot of questions and I had to wrap my mind around things that happen around this time, and then it happens again each year. I'm very used to living in the context where I feel like an outsider looking in and having to change myself for the things I do because of these things. There's these systems or these practices that aren't my own practices, and they're not the practices of my family, but I'm partaking in it, or I observe because school is canceled for this amount of time and my in-laws celebrate. We do Christmas dinner and a Secret Santa and all that sort of thing. I'm partaking in it. And I've had to learn to partake in it. It can be exhausting having to always think about the right way to do it. Am I supposed to do this now or say this? So it takes up a lot of bandwidth when it's not something you were raised in and had to learn growing up. And that's like just an example, like a more recent example of how women have to move through the world. It's like seeing things from the perspective or the majority, that's not a majority, right? So it's like the majority power perspective, who's holding the majority of power from that perspective, and having to like sort of change yourself in different contexts because that's what's expected of you as a woman. I think that's how I understand being a woman in this country and probably in many other places, where I have to be aware all the time and be vigilant that I'm working within what's appropriate in this situation or context. Or
Instead of just being who I want to be and thinking what I want to think and having the ideas and the creativity that I want to have. And that's like, not only just to also, I'm not a Christian. I've never understood it, even as a kid.
Really?
Like, I'd rather be home reading a good book. Yeah, but I think that, for you, it's different because, you were brought up in a different system too. But also for me, like, I never felt like there was anything for me because it's all Christian. I never identified with anything because I never understood it or wanted to. That's a problem in society, being that we are all forced to partake in Christianity in some way.
It's kind of in your face.
Yeah.
It's obvious. I mean, if it's someone who enjoys Christmas and grew up celebrating Christmas and believes in, maybe the belief is not part of it, but the traditions. They love Christmas dinner, getting together and sitting by the tree. I think there's some really beautiful parts of this.
Totally.
I'm not ragging on it. I'm saying that
It's still Jesus's birthday.
sure.
It's still revolving around Christianity. I agree. I always like Thanksgiving. Obviously, you're different because you are a minority and you're an immigrant, from an immigrant family, but I never felt like I had anything to identify growing up either because I don't identify as Christian. Never believed in any of it. Never felt like there was anything for me. And that's fine. I don't feel like I was missing out. I was making up my own.
You weren't raised in a church or a certain religion.
No, my dad did love Jesus.
Your dad was
Yes.
religious.
Yes.
Did that happen later in life?
It was when I was little, and then it kind of went to the wayside. My mom was like, no. And I was like, no. I'm not going to believe in anything where it's totally male dominated and it doesn't make any sense. I don't like any organized religion that's completely male dominated and being used in ways that I don't think are productive.
I can say that about any religion. I'm a Muslim person.
Yeah.
I think that Islam is a beautiful religion. But when Islam is used as a way to stay in power and to oppress or control, which you see a lot in lots of different countries around the world, I don't think it's
Right.
that is in itself a way that men have wanted to dominate and control women.
Men have used religion as ways to dominate, hold power, and control women and control people of color, people, whatever the group was that was wanting to be controlled. I mean, it's just, but I mean, anyways.
Yeah. Anyways, but
Anyways,
I think you're right. The formal construct of religion was created by men. And
based on male values, here we all are in a box again. And anytime women were getting together and trying to base things on different values, they were gotten rid of.
give me an example.
Witches.
Oh, yeah.
Because it started like in Europe where they were using herbs and healing people and stuff. And
I was hoping you were talking about witches.
I'm talking about witches. I feel like if witch was a possibility when I was a kid, I would have been like, hell yeah, sign me up for that. Let's go to the witchcraft every Sunday. What are we going to learn about now? What kind of potion is it?
Are you referring to lessons in chemistry?
Yeah. No, I have it right here. I watched the show first.
Okay,
but I heard the book is very different.
I'm almost finished with the book.
Oh, you haven't watched the show?
No.
It's really good. I really enjoyed it. My friend's annoyance was that she felt the actress was way too skinny. She is really skinny. I hope she's okay.
Yeah,
because she looked really thin.
The other thing I also didn't like about the book, you'll read it. We'll talk about it later.
Book club.
Off the podcast. But they keep talking about how pretty she is. And they talk about how intelligent she is also. But they keep bringing up how pretty she is. Maybe I need to think about it a little more. Maybe they were like, oh, because she's pretty or attractive to men, that's the only thing they focus on. She wasn't seen through the lens of her contributions, intelligence, or accomplishments. But I think it goes a little further than that, where it was like, oh, she's so pretty, she's so pretty, she's so pretty, she's so pretty. Like I don't know. Can we have a female heroine where they don't talk about how pretty she is?
Yeah.
And I think women fall into this too, because it's a female author.
Yeah.
And I think we're just so brainwashed by the systems that men have created and the value that they've placed on our looks. We could talk about that in another episode. Billions of dollars of an industry for women to look attractive.
The things that we value in women. Women can be cruel to one another. I feel like in one area we're getting better, but obviously there's women right now that are doing some things that I'm sad to say they're women. I wish they were some offshoot of bacteria. A piece of shit on my shoe. So terrible. And it's disgusting to say that they're one of us. They're not one of us. They're in their own category, and it's a disgusting category. But I hear women sometimes say her voice or, talking about we are hard. I have to keep catching myself. Like if I'm even about AOC or something, like we hold these women to such a standard as women. And that's because of how we've been raised and how we know we have to move around in our own environment, in our workplace relationships. We're like, they're not this enough. They're not that enough. I feel like we need to stop it. We need to not put down other women that are doing the right thing, not the wrong thing. You can put down those bitches as much as you want. In fact, please do. Please call them out. But women that are doing good things in the world, I don't want to hear any other woman be like, I didn't like her dress. I didn't like her voice. I didn't like her hair. It's so stupid. What about her values?
Superficial metrics where we hold women to. And it's an easy thing to target because there's so many ideals that men have created, like the ideal weight, hair color, the ideal speaking voice. There's just so many things I can't even keep up with it. This book in general was very feminist. That was the whole
Yeah.
point of the book, to show how hard it was for women in that era. And this is, late 50s, early 60s, to be intelligent and to be seen as capable and making contributions to society and not being taken seriously.
There's a guy on Instagram who's great, posting about things that women have done that men have taken credit for. There's so many things that once you start seeing it, it's so in your face. Like you're like, oh, I just got a white Camry. And then you're like, there's like 25 white Camry. All you start seeing is like white Camrys. Once you start actually talking about this and looking for it, it's everywhere. It's like when you're picking a movie, it's all white savior movies. You look in a line of movies and you can bet that 90% are white men savior movies. When in any situation where you felt like you were in danger, have you ever been like, I wish there was a white guy here? I have never in my life, other than getting my oil changed, been like, what are we going to do? Where's the white guy?
It's like, I am in trouble. I need someone to save me. I'm completely powerless to do anything myself.
Looking for other women. I'm not looking for a white guy. But when you're going to pick a movie or even listening to a podcast, it's predominantly white males, and it has to change. I think that Hollywood,
Cultural space,
when they're not a majority, but they are a majority in every aspect of our lives when it comes to who holds the power, who makes the movies, who is in the movies, all the cultural aspects. Thank God.
Right?
Yeah.
Who's handsome? It's this white guy because these are the beauty standards.
Thank God for Black culture that has come up on its own and actually gives us some legit culture and alternatives to this. But I think in general, there's not a lot of stuff out there where women are saving the day. Who do you look to when you can't find something?
Mom, me.
A woman.
You know what I tell Ian? If we're like in a crowded place or we're traveling, I'm like, Ian, if you ever get separated from us, find someone in a uniform that looks official, like a police person or security person or, someone that has safety or security role. They're easy to identify, usually. Or you ask a woman. Ask a woman with preferably children to help you. Stay where you are and then ask someone and have them help you. Because I wouldn't want Ian coming up to some random guy and be like, I'm lost. Can you help me find my parents? Maybe it'll be fine, but that's not a risk I'm willing to let him take.
Nor should you. I mean, there is the whole, would you rather come upon a bear or a man in the woods? We all pick bear. Even though I love backpacking, I love hiking by myself, but I won't go backpacking by myself. And that is not because of animals.
Yeah, it's because of security and safety.
Creepy men and these are learned things. These aren't like, I'm making it up. That's one of the other problems too. I've told men that I'm close to that know me, that know that I don't exaggerate or lie, how many times I have personally been sexually assaulted or harassed. And they're always like,
They have no idea.
They have no idea. And so then they don't believe it. Just like, what's going on right now? I hear all these male podcasters talking about Trump. Obviously, he's in the Epstein files, and obviously, he's guilty. The son of a bitch is guilty. If you would have asked me this 10 years ago, I could have told you that he's a disgusting human being that's definitely like molested and possibly raped young girls. I would have told you that. Like, I hear all these men initially, they're like, I don't know. Is he? I'm like, look at the evidence.
Yeah.
He's been accused many, many times of rape and assault. He's on his own mouth says that he does these things to women. What more proof do you need? Here we are in a society that does not value women nor believe women. And I'm fucking tired of it.
Men they have no clue because they don't have that lived experience that we do, that this actually exists. And this is something that I come back to, and I think there are a lot of parallels for people who are minority races or religions. Like, they're having to pay attention to what the culture is. And for women, we're having to pay attention to what things we have to look out for, like what is dangerous, what is something to be vigilant about. For men, and I'm going to say white men who are the dominant culture, they don't have to think about those things because it's all built around them and
Right.
their wants and needs and their safety and security. So they don't even think about it. It's not something that even crosses their mind. A Black man has a lot of things that he has to
Right.
be aware of. A Black woman has even more things that they have to be
Right.
aware of to be safe. For a white man to move through this world, generations before have made it so easy for them to live in this world, to live in this country. There was one example, and this is a very small example because I've been harassed too, but this is a very small example where I was living in Seattle and I went to get my hair cut, and it was evening time, and I take the bus and I walk to my salon, and then I have to walk back and take the bus to go back to my apartment. It's nighttime by the time I'm out of there, dark, and my hair is done. This guy is like, "You look really nice. Nice hair." I think he was giving me a compliment, and I didn't respond because I was like, uh-oh, this is not a situation I want to be in. He was a little offended that I wasn't like, "Oh, thank you. I just got my hair done." He was like, "I paid you a compliment." And I was like, "I heard the compliment, but
I'm afraid of you.
and it's nighttime. I'm walking by myself, waiting for a bus on the street corner, and there's no one else around." He was completely surprised that this was my reaction. Like 100%, like, I wouldn't let anything happen to you. I'm like, it's that I'm worried if you're going to step in or not. I'm worried about you. This is the thing that crosses my mind and has to cross my mind because of what the conditions that I'm in right now. I'm not going to be like, "Oh, yeah, let's have a conversation. And thank you so much for noticing my hair." He was like, I hope like that stays with him. Because he was 100% surprised. That was my reaction. Those were the thoughts in my mind. And that was a very benign interaction. And I'm like, okay, well, this is the reality for women all the time, constantly. Is this street corner safe? Am I going to be able to get home? What time of day is it?
What was
Who's
that?
talking to me? What do I look like? How am I
Yeah.
dressed? Like, these constant questions that run through your mind that men never have to think about.
It's a learned behavior. That's the thing they don't understand. This is a learned behavior because of the things we have gone through in our lives. This is not just our fear for no reason. This is a learned behavior because of things that have happened to us throughout our lives to why we behave like this. If I see more than one guy or even just someone I don't trust cross the street, I go out of my way to avoid people all the time. You know, that is something that I have learned to do.
And why do we have to do that?
Because of men.
Wouldn't it be
Men.
nice to be able to go someplace and feel safe? I talk about this with Justin. He goes and travels and we'll talk to this person and that person.
Yeah.
And the conversation is so easy. I'm glad he feels comfortable in all settings, at home and abroad. But I tell him when I was traveling by myself, I would be indoors when the sun went down. It depends on where I am. For example, if I was in India, I was my hotel room when the sun went down because I didn't want to put myself in a position that would be really difficult for me. It would be potentially dangerous. And not to
I
say
think
like, oh yeah, like
I
I'm in a
think
dangerous area or whatever. Like it's just a consideration that I always had. Do I feel comfortable giving personal information? These are constant thoughts that run through my head.
and for anyone that would be like, well, don't travel then. Fuck you. The whole thing, the whole problem, you're part of the problem is what you are. If you just thought that we should change our behavior more. But I do think we just found the one time that you might fear and wish there was a white guy with you. One that you know, not just a random
No.
one, to prevent other men from assaulting and harassing you. That's like the only real time that you're like, hey, it would be great if I didn't have to fear for my life right now by having a white guy with me.
For having, it could be like a friend, a female friend, like just having another
Yeah, that's
person with-
true. That's true. It's just more like being alone.
I think it's like being alone.
That's
and,
true.
And being in a place where you don't understand how things go as well. Like we both lived in Morocco. I feel like I can get around Morocco. I can speak some of the language, which areas
How to yell at people.
to avoid, where to travel, how to travel, these types of things, or even cultural norms. I know how to be respectful in this cultural context. I don't necessarily know that in every country, and I don't want to draw attention to myself. I don't understand something.
I've traveled in Costa Rica by myself and I feel comfortable doing it. I traveled in Europe or in Morocco by myself and I'd feel comfortable doing those things. I feel comfortable traveling around Canada by myself. The other thing I would say is we've put ourselves in situations where we've been challenged, where for, just male dominated, you could say male dominated fields too. Like Morocco it is Muslim. It's a very male dominated society. I remember when we were in the Crepa and we were going to go, like it was our end of that 3-month training period. We got to go to that cool waterfall swim area. I don't know if you know this or remember, but Rashid was not going to let us swim.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I went and was like, that's total bullshit. What's your reasoning? Because we're women. He just thought we were in more danger. I am a better swimmer if I'm with the majority of men. And then he
Worried about our safety
and our ability to swim.
I was wondering if maybe it was like cultural, like he didn't want us to be in bathing suits or something.
No, he was worried about swimming.
That's like not at all what my concern would be.
Because all the other volunteers, they were in groups of men and women. There's a guy that went to college in the US and he didn't understand being in the military. I didn't even know how many times I had an idea. And this is also, I think men and women often speak different languages, but you say an idea and everyone's like, and then a man just literally repeats your idea and everybody's like, yeah, that's what we're going to do. You're like, that's what I said. Or I'd even say the idea in front of other people, and then I'd hear someone else, a man, using it as their own idea. That also happened. And so here we are.
I know that for the majority of MCH, coming to Morocco was like being in a very different cultural context. It was not something that they're used to being in a Muslim country. And that was one of the main reasons I wanted to serve in Morocco. I've always wondered what it would be like to live in a place and feel like I'm not the religious minority. It was eye-opening how people must feel just living everyday life like, you're Christian American person. I talk about Christmas a lot, but fasting and Ramadan and having to explain what that is for people who weren't raised in it, have no connection to it, have no understanding of it, and being in a context where you're like, oh, I don't have to explain. Everyone just knows and does it. It was really liberating, freeing to be seen and accepted without like, "Oh, I'm going to have to be the ambassador here and like talk
Yeah.
about it and educate people about what this is, what the practice is about, what goes on for those 30 days and the holiday that follows. You don't realize how much energy that takes until you're not having to expend that energy or brain power. I don't have to explain it.
Yeah. It also is very male dominated, though, and women are not treated great there.
No, of course. That's a whole thing for sure.
Yeah, I've never wanted to go back because of the amount of harassment and assault that I had there. It was like so much. Now, knowing what I know, I had PTSD from it. I was assaulted so much there. And I didn't really understand what was going on. Other people were like, oh, yeah. But then I realized talking to Jen and just having blonde hair and blue eyes and being told that everybody thought I was a whore, then it really came to light. I was dealing with a lot more than most of the other volunteers. I would go back, but I would do it so bougie. I would not ride on any public transport just because I don't want to put myself through it again. There are things in my life that I still have to deal with because of the amount of assault and harassment that I had to go through there.
Yeah.
And the worst thing that's ever happened to me has been here in the US. It was just so much of it there. It was like every time I walked out the door,
You're exposed to a different level of harassment because
Yeah.
of how exposed you are having to take public transportation.
and walk or ride your
Walking
bike
or- yeah.
everywhere. Yeah. If I stayed within the confines of my tiny village where everyone knew me, I was fine. But the second I walked out of there, it was
Right.
constant. We love men. We just love men that know they are equal in every single way to a woman or know that we're better than them.
I love men. I'm married to a man. I'm married to a white man, which is why I have a keen understanding of these issues because we talk about it. We talk
And I've
about our
dated-
differences of experience. Looking like him and looking like me. We can hypothesize what if I looked differently and in what ways would my experience change?
I think about that all the time. Okay, well, if I grew up and I was a person of color, what, like what would have been different in that scenario for sure? Because there were people of color at my school. There's a lot of Hispanic people in California. A lot of my friends were Hispanic. But as a kid, I don't even remember thinking about it until someone makes you think about it. It never even crossed my mind that anyone was different until people make you actually think about it.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, like, let's transition
Mhm.
and not talk forever, but like, what kind of world on those and knowing that world is your oyster as a woman, what kind of country would we want to live in?
What country do we want to create?
Diversity.
Love diversity.
Yes.
I think it makes us better. I think it makes us stronger. I think knowing everyone has a different experience. And
Yeah.
if we talked about those different experiences, we would be so much more compassionate. We'd be so much more aware. We'd be better able to relate to people other than ourselves or people who look like us.
Even just not being forced to practice Christian values or Christian holidays. Practice other or don't even call it a Christian holiday.
There was an article I read a long time ago where a school in New York City made it a day off for the public school for Eid, the big celebration after Ramadan. Everyone had the day off and they were able to celebrate with their Muslim neighbors and friends, share food and have community events and share the joy of that holiday. I wish I saw more is like, oh, let's share in these holidays that aren't Christian derived so that we understand other cultures and practices and can support our neighbors that are different from us.
And solstice.
Yeah.
And witchcraft. And Native American holidays. If they just maybe like something different too, just like appreciating the earth. I also want to see a country where we are working towards climate change problems. It's so stupid to me right now that we're all caught up in all this bullshit and that we actually have an existential crisis on our hands when it comes to the earth. I'd like to see a country that believes in science again and believes in having experts with expert knowledge. That's not saying you can't question, but informed questions, informed follow-up questions, universal health care.
Would love that. That's a
Possible.
country where people who need to see a doctor can see a doctor, a healthcare provider, and have it and not go bankrupt because of it.
Being in the military, it was great. You could get anything you needed. I would change healthcare. There's so many changes I would make to it where it was preventative care and people got what they needed to be healthy, not this giving a pill and handing out pills. Some people want a pill, but you're never going to get people better the way that we're doing things. The system is set up to fail. But the way that you pay, we could do it today. You get rid of insurance companies. You could do universal health care. We already pay so much more per capita than any other country because of insurance companies. Get rid of the middleman. You don't have to tax anyone more. You would actually be saving money and you could have universal health care. Education for anyone that wants it. Good education. Elementary school, high school, affordable college. I don't think all universities are ever going to be free, but affordable. Why not put limits on how much companies can charge percentage rates of student loans? Like, why are student loans hundreds of thousands of dollars, 12% interest rates on student loans? It makes no sense. It should be just like a home loan, a fixed rate. Nobody needs to go into debt because they have student loans.
Yeah. And I don't think these are pie in the sky desires.
Oh.
It's not like this is not like a wish list that I don't think that we couldn't implement. There are countries that have universal health care. They have affordable pre-K, good public education.
Yeah. Paid time, paid family leave, a 32-hour work week, livable minimum wage. There's so many reasons that the working class is put down on. I feel like especially right now, we are like worker bees for the wealthy and powerful. Obviously, the job numbers were terrible. And then the person that found the job numbers got fired.
But she didn't even come up with the job numbers. There's a whole team that calculates these things. Trump didn't like the numbers.
He doesn't like
reality.
facts in general. I want to hold our government, our judicial system accountable for things. They should not be able to be investing while they're in office. They're investing in the very companies that they're overseeing. That's ridiculous. The Supreme Court itself is so corrupt, and I don't understand why the Supreme Court has so much power.
It's like the third branch of government. It's set up to be a checks and balance, system for the other two branches of power. They should all be equal in their power, but that is not the reality.
In other countries that have something like the Supreme Court, it's nonpartisan.
Yeah.
And that's a big problem for us. It should be nonpartisan in a way because they're not elected. Every other branch is elected. It doesn't make any sense that they have as much power as they do without being elected. They're not representative of the people. They're representative of one of them dying and then whoever was president at that time.
It's a weird system, for sure.
It's an inefficient
Having
system.
A lifetime terms.
There's some really simple things, but like corruption in these government contracts, just giving your buddies billion-dollar contracts, corrupt.
There's too much money in politics, too much power in the hands of people with money that can sway a congressman or a Supreme Court justice, for example, to bias their ruling or their influence or something.
And really the heart of a country that you want to live in is one where people are doing good. You have time to spend with friends and family, time to be in your community, time to take a vacation, and you can afford it. You have time to contribute. I feel like we've gotten so far away from community, and it's a huge complaint in the elderly population. They're just put in areas where they don't even have opportunities to interact with other people. It's sad. I mean, it's just sad how far we've gotten from community. And we know how important it is because we definitely have a very strong community
And we value our community very much. We invest
Yeah.
in our community with time.
and energy. And
Yeah. We take care of each other.
yeah, and that's like, I mean, there's so many ways to change this country to be better where everybody has those opportunities. Like, we are a very wealthy country. There's no reason we don't have universal health care. There's no reason we don't have a living wage. There's just no reason.
There's no good reason, but the reason
There's no
we
good-
don't have those things is because
True.
the wealthiest among us don't pay their fair share of taxes. We wouldn't have to tax anyone more if the wealthiest Americans paid an appropriate amount of taxes on their wealth.
Yeah.
Wealth that they've accumulated because of
Us.
legacy, the people who work for them, the contracts they receive,
The
the
subsidies.
connections they have. It's a very unequal system.
And I think another way to look at it too is like, we've chosen the paths that we've chosen because we care about people. In our everyday life, the decisions we've made are because we care about people, because we care about community, because we care about our country. And we've shown that and show up for it. That's not to say we couldn't be making money on the backs of other people and fighting for power and choosing these other paths where we're billionaires. But that's not what we've wanted. We've chosen these paths because of our values, and they are more needed than these billionaires. I don't think that this world needs a single billionaire. Why do you need $1 billion? If you have a private jet or two, why? People need to pay their fair share. It's gotten so out of control, the amount that this class has, the impact that it has on this world. It shouldn't even be cool to be a billionaire. I love Taylor Swift. I love Oprah, but why do you need that much? It shouldn't be just because I can. There's a lot of things I could have done in my life to make money, but that's never been who I am, and it's
Right.
never been how I've been driven.
Yeah, agreed.
Extra time, volunteer. That's the kind of stuff,
Yeah,
you know?
have money,
Give it
invest in
away.
charity. Give it away.
I don't keep it.
It's so funny. Justin, we have this conversation where he's like, well, I don't know why I'm starting this business or that project. He's like, when I die, you're just going to give it all away. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm going to
Yeah.
make sure Ian's taken care of, and then I'm just going to give it all away. I was just at the canoe journey. The Lower Elwha Clallam tribe hosted the canoe journey, which happens every year. All of the Native American tribes in the area, like Canada to Washington, paddle their traditional waterways to the host site. In this case, it was at the Elwha. They're hosted by the Elwha, fed by the Elwha. They're given a place to stay or a place to put their tents on Elwha land and given gifts. And that was the tradition, like that if there was some sort of announcement or event, they would invite all the tribes to come, and then the host tribe would feed and house them and give them gifts. And the sentiment was wealth is shown in how much you give. The idea behind it is you're not hoarding it. And maybe it's like a symbol of power and prestige or status that you can give these things. The point is that you're not hoarding and accumulating wealth just for the sake of accumulating wealth. Yeah.
Like, I don't understand like what it gives. Just like I don't understand a racist. Like, I don't understand it at its core. What does that do for you? I was talking to Chat GPT last night, talking about 2025 and what are its main points. I was just trying to get a little information about it. What is their main vision? What's their end game? Because it's like, what was Hitler's end game? When would he have been happy? He killed all the Jews and he owns the world, and there's only white people with blue eyes and blonde hair left. What's next? You know, like, does it end? Like this whole 2025 thing and Trump, I'm like, okay, you get the country, you lose all the jobs, so now you can't make any money from us because we're all broke and unemployed and we don't have health care anymore. Our drinking water's dirty now.
People
The
are
earth's on
dying.
fire. There's like dead bodies in the street, literally from what they're doing right now. What?
Was this your vision?
It's the opposite vision. It's the anti-vision.
Working towards. But this is what's happening.
Right.
The inevitable outcome of the policies that you're implementing is
Yes.
people are going to die. We're going to
Yes.
have a planet that's uninhabitable. No one can start a business or work.
You're not getting any revenue. Are you going to go borrow more from Japan?
Yeah.
You know, like women are now in the home for you, I guess? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is their vision? That's like, we're talking about our vision, which is diversity and healthcare and time to spend with your family and the ability to have what you want. I mean, and there's so many ways to get there. I mean, there's so many ways to, I attend the intensive outpatient therapy group. I love it because it's part of my education. That's how I get some of my clinical hours. And I learned so much. It's like cognitive behavioral therapy and restructuring. And I'm like, everyone should go to this. Every teenager. This should be part of school curriculum. Learning how to change your thought process, like learning how to talk to people. It should be repeated later in life because it's so beneficial. I catch myself being like, oh, you're catastrophizing again, or you're doing that thing where you're being reactive.
Even having the language would be a powerful tool for people to have.
It would change so much in our society to implement things like this instead of learning the Bible or having the Bible taught to you. I feel like let's teach skills that we know work. That's what I would love to hear, actually, from one of these right-wing people. Like, what, as we say what our vision is, what's your vision? What's your end game? What's your goal?
Is it for everyone to be Christian and to be
And
able
white.
to quote the Bible?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that's happening now that's taking us back decades.
It doesn't end well for both sides because people end up dying, you know, and people are probably already dying because of some of the things they did. I mean, freaking RFK. If you want to talk about someone that doesn't understand a lick of science, I don't think he could respond with a factual statement.
We started this conversation with credibility, qualifications, experience, and
Used to
those
be
two
important.
in combination.
Not to sit on our high horses because we're so educated. You can get experience and education, and common sense is important. You know, you can get educated in other ways. By no means do you have to be book smart, but you need to be educated in some way and be able to critically think.
You need experts to help you understand the things that you don't. It's just incredible that he's just like, nope, don't need them. Don't need experts. This is people who've gone to school, gotten their PhD or medical degree, sometimes both, and have worked in this topic for their entire careers, spent decades learning about one topic.
RNA.
It could be like one disease or one virus. You could spend your whole life, your whole career studying a virus. And someone can just be like, no, we don't need your expertise. I know more on that topic.
We don't actually want to cure cancer anymore. What's that about? You're not going to invest in curing cancer anymore?
Yeah. Don't even get me started on the whole research thing. We'll talk about that at another time. But like the NIH cuts, people who are in the midst of their research, getting their funding pulled, or getting fired or losing their team. It's just unconscionable. We have an advanced system of understanding in biomedical research because of the investment that the government has put into these topics. We can say that the healthcare system is broken, but we have a lot of advanced treatments available because of research and the value of research and the value of science and scientists. The fact that you're just going to be like, no, we're not going to do this because of a word.
And lack of understanding. They don't even know what they're cutting. I'll say healthcare is broken because people make money off it. It was better before COVID. Everybody got their hand in the pot. I can say this having worked as a nurse before COVID, then in the military, and then as a nurse after. And it got worse. It is worse now than it was 5 or 6 years ago.
Worse and worse.
Everything is about making money now. It doesn't feel like patient care is a top priority. We have an aging, unhealthy population that utilizes the healthcare system frequently. People can make money off of this system, and we have a really unhealthy aging population right now. I see ways to fix it, but
In what ways, like, give me an example of people making money off the system that didn't exist before COVID?
well, anywhere you can get your hand in the pot and charge Medicaid or Medicare for things that will get reimbursed by insurance companies. Insurance companies are the ones deciding what they're going to pay for and what they're not without any evidence base. Pocketing money. It's gotten worse because during COVID, the government was putting so much money into healthcare at that time, like was getting so much money for COVID that people saw how they could profit off it, including insurance companies. And I just think that it's continued now.
I don't know enough about how insurance companies work. You have more direct interaction with billing health insurance.
I mean,
Part of
just
a system that a lot
Yeah.
of other countries don't have to deal with. And I think there's definitely a link there. There's an incentive for middlemen to find ways to profit.
Insurance companies are not in it because they care about people. They're in it for profit. Most medical professionals are in it because they care about people. I'm not profiting, nor have I in any way from my position as a nurse, other than my salary. I can see how things have gotten worse. It's also the aging population. Every hospital system is flooded with baby boomers. Anywhere I've worked, there are no beds. It's all elderly people.
On top of that, we have shortages of every healthcare profession. We have rural hospitals and smaller centers closing because they can't keep the lights on. They're not being reimbursed enough. And then, you have the Trump administration that's going to cut Medicaid for millions of people. I just don't know how these smaller systems are going to survive if they're barely making ends meet.
That's why there will be literal dead bodies. The effects we are going to end up seeing by this administration are going to last for years and years to come. The detriment of this country. That's why I want to hear people talk about more. Now we're back in power. What are we going to do? I don't want to go back to what we had. I want it to be better. I don't want to play their game anymore. I want what we want to be done for the people, for the working class. I'm done with millionaires and billionaires, people in power getting whatever they want. I think the working class needs to be brought up. I want to invest in small businesses. I'm tired of these ginormous corporations. You lose innovation. You just lose so much when one corporation owns everything.
It's another way of saying diversity.
In every single
area.
We need diversity in healthcare, in government, in the judicial system, everywhere. Diversity.
In education. Yeah.
Education. I do not think young white men are the answer right now. I think women are. And it's frustrating to see the Democratic Party trying to invest in young white men. I'm like, invest in women. Can we finally invest in women? Finally. Can we make that a priority? It's the only thing that works. We've seen it all over the world. How do you change things? You educate women. That's the only way to really change things.
Something that I want to see more of in the world, kindness.
Basic human decency.
Thanks so much for listening to She the People. If you like today's conversation, follow, rate, share, send us your questions, hot takes. We will bring the receipts. Until next time, stay curious, be kind, and keep building the world you want.